My name is Sharee Bowen. I am from Norwalk, Ohio, and I have 4 years, 10 months in recovery from substance abuse.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Can you share a little bit about your childhood? So your family relationships, if you experienced any childhood abuse, or positive things, anything like that.
I'm the youngest of four of us siblings. My mom raised all of us on her own as a single mother. She did a wonderful job. All of my other siblings have never been addicts. They've all been, complete good members of society. I was the only one that kind of trailed off. I can't use any sort of childhood, excuse to that whatsoever. I grew up in what you would call a normalized, family, other than, just my mom struggling from time to time. But again, everybody else was completely normal, and then there was me.
So can you tell me a little bit about your first use? What was it like? How old were you? And what did it do for you?
At the time, I was a single mom myself, working, two jobs, and I just was exhausted. And I was told, hey, guess what? This will keep you going. And I did it, and I just felt this sense of, oh my God, I am Superwoman. I can work two jobs. I can take care of my kids. I can clean the house. I can cook dinner, do laundry, and I just felt on top of the world. I never felt that again, along my addiction, but that first one was the one that was just like, wow, and it just completely consumed me. I had heard many times, like, the first time, and I was hooked, and I was always like, yeah, there's no way, and it was absolutely my case for sure.
Can you share some stories that really highlight your use?
So I had got really bad on methamphetamine IV use at the time, and I was, going for days on end with no sleep, no food, hallucinating, hearing things, seeing things, and at one point in time, I was so bad that, I had called the police on myself. I was hearing things and seeing people that were not there, and that was absolutely humiliating. That was a really big, thing for me. I had lost my children in the mix of this, to my mom. I knew that at that point in time, everybody was on to me. They knew I had hid my addiction for quite some time, but then when they did start catching on, I was like the flight or fight mode. I had to go. I packed up what I could, and I had my one youngest with me still at the time. We lived in my car. We went from Kentucky to Florida. So in the mix of this, I've lost my children, except for my youngest at this time, my home, my job, every bit of dignity at this point. I had overdosed. I had almost lost my life throughout my whole entire addiction, almost 11 times. Narcan use to multiple times. So I went from, just using to be able to be productive and be a mother and, feel like I was Superwoman to do everything, to losing absolutely everything, living in a car. My children, Brody, he was old enough to know at the time what was going on, and he hated me for it. It took a really, really long time to work on that. My youngest, it didn't matter to him what I did. He kind of was, I think, the reason that, I stayed alive when I did. I was still his mom, and we were camping in the car, but today he's old enough to look back now and see what really was happening. And he'll tell me all the time, Mom, I'm so glad we have a house and we're not living in the car anymore. And, that's a really cool thing to see. But I destroyed just about every friendship that I had.
At what point did you recognize that you had a problem?
I fought it for a really long time, as I think, a lot of addicts do. Now looking back on it, I should have known that I had a problem way sooner than I did, but I was, doing me at the time. I think when I realized that my son and I were in a car, and I had a boyfriend at the time, and he was not it, he was just right there with it. He was a huge reason of why I started. And he's encouraging it this entire time, and I'm looking at my son in the back seat and wondering, how am I going to feed him next? And then I was like, wow, dude, you've lost everything. So I think it was by the time we had made it to Florida and we were in the car, and I just didn't know where life was going to go the next day at that time.
What happened that you decided to get help, and were there any barriers that were stopping you or slowing you down?
Yes. So the boyfriend at the time was completely against me getting help. And I want to say, too, like, he was offered the same chances, that I was. My family was still willing to help him, even though they did not necessarily like him. He just did not want me to leave and get better, and he kept telling me, like, we can do this on our own, and me knowing there was no way we were going to do this on our own. I had a police officer from Norwalk, Zach O'Neill is his name. I knew if I called him that I could get the help that I needed. He had told me at one point in time when he had come to my house for drug-related issues with a boyfriend, and he had pulled me outside of the home, and he had said, Sharee, you're going to die. Like, you need to get it together. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. And he, like, was, like, stern. He's like, I'm not kidding. You're going to fucking die. So at the end, I was just like, let's call O'Neill. What's the worst that's going to happen? Is he going to put me in jail? I'm going to get detoxed there, And I called him, and he's like, Sharee, come in. And I went into the police department. He sat there for like 2 to 3 hours making phone calls, calling. And at the time I was sick, so he's reaching me a trash can if I need it. He's closing the window or turning on a fan because, I was really going through it at the time. And he sat there with me and made every phone call and helped make it possible for me to get into treatment.
Good. Was that the last of your use?
That was the last of my use.
So what kind of support helped you the most in your early recovery?
I had went to treatment in Lorraine, actually. And while I was there, I just experienced a lot of emotions. That's pretty normal. But I look over and I see other people who are still using, and they're sneaking stuff in, and it was just a really bad atmosphere for me to be in. And I knew at the time, once I had got my head clear, that I could do this. I just needed to get to some meetings or to a support group of some sort in my family. I needed to be back by my boys. And I called my sister 2 weeks into rehab, and I'm like, listen, I can't do this. Like, you've got to come and get me. And they were very, very hesitant about it. And I'm like, I promise, we'll go to a meeting tonight, And my sister, again, she went to meetings with me, like my first 6 months. She was set at every single meeting with me because she knew I was uncomfortable and I just didn't want to go. And I think a part of it was she wanted to make sure I was going too, which is perfect. But she went to every meeting that I went to, and to group settings. And she went to, when they would do meetings with like speakers that would come, she would still go. My family was just huge to me.
That's great. What does your recovery look like today?
So today I have 4 years and 10 months. I'll be celebrating the big 5 in October. And today my recovery looks like I am a productive mother and a present mom. I don't go to meetings all the time like I should, you know what I mean? Life is life. I don't believe that, you need to go to them 24/7, But today I go to church when I can. I have a spiritual being that I follow. It's good. My life is good today.
Awesome.
It's good.
Can you share any stigmas that you have faced in your recovery from family, friends, community, employment, or healthcare?
Yes, so I've experienced some heart issues in the last year and a half, and I went to a heart doctor here in my town in Norwalk, and the first thing before he even introduces himself to me, he says, "Oh, so we're 36 and past drug user." Yeah, like I've been very, very open with that, and everything that I would try to explain to him, and it was just a very cut and dry. And he's like, "Well, this could be because of your past IV use." I get it, I did do that. And I'm always going to carry that with me no matter where I go because it's there, But there was no listening to me. There was nothing. And I got home and I looked on my portal, and in his write-up, 4 different times he mentioned that I was an IV drug user in the same paragraph. So I was super frustrated and upset about that. And I thought about, writing or going and talking to somebody. And at this point in time, as a recovering addict, I have to understand that this is something that I have done, unfortunately. Should he have portrayed himself that way? Absolutely not. But I'm going to forgive him for that. I'm going to let that go, and I'm going to go find a different doctor who will listen to me regardless of my past, because I'm going to deal with it no matter where I go.
How has your recovery helped to heal relationships that were damaged in your active addiction?
Oh, yeah, this is a good one. I love this one. The biggest one I'll talk about is my son, my oldest. When I say he hated me, he hated me. When we had come back from Florida, me and my youngest, my mom had handed me a paper that my son had wrote, and it was his wish list to Santa. The first thing he asked for was for his baby brother back. And I still have that to this day. But at the bottom of it, he just didn't want his mom back because his mom was not a good person. And I was like, ouch, But today, it is amazing. My first few years, he would throw it in my face when I would try to punish or reprimand or ground or something, because it was really hard for me to find the equal medium of, okay, so he is allowed to feel what he is feeling. You did this, you created it. And then there was a time of, okay, enough is enough. Where do I draw the line? He has felt this for 3 years. We're on year 4. It's time that he does learn to respect me. And he got that respect back. And he doesn't throw it in my face anymore and call me a drug addict or a junkie, because he used to ask me, well, you left me for a man and drugs. And I had to hear it for a while because he was allowed to have those feelings. And today, it's so cool. He'll text me, hey, Mom, how are you? Have a good day. He tells me all the time he's proud of me, or, we go on vacation every year, and that was something I could never do before, you know what I mean? And so when we were on vacation and we were sitting out on the porch in Florida, and he's like, Mom, I'm really proud of you. He's like, thank you for doing that for us. And I was like, what? Did you just say thank you? And that to me is probably one of the best things in my recovery, is just watching his eyes light up with him being proud of me. Even though he shouldn't have to do that, you know what I mean? But it's really cool to see that today, and it makes it all worth it.
Love that. Sharee, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come here to the Road to Hope in Lorain County. We're really grateful that you could come and share your experience with us.
Thanks for having me.
Sure.